Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the State of the Union, Joint Address to Congress recap stream. We're going to have a good stream tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the speech, and I'm sure we're going to get some super chats in the mix from all of you guys as well, because a lot of people are paying attention tonight to Donald Trump's speech. A lot of people talking about it, and it was a good speech, very good speech. I think, honestly, you could make the case it was the best State of the Union or State of the Union equivalent that he has given in either presidency. This was his fifth joint address to Congress, and probably it started off very chaotic, not because of him necessarily, but because of a lot of drama that was taking place within the chamber, which led the Democrats to be forced into submission because Speaker Johnson took the microphone, did his due diligence, and basically told them, yeah, you guys want to mess with this State of the Union, we're going to mess with you right back. So that was good. But anyways, guys, make sure before we begin, like the stream. We have 300 viewers, but only 64 likes. You guys know the drill. If you're new here, maybe you don't. The face cam does not go on until we hit 100 likes. So make sure that we get to 100 so we could really get started. But we already have a couple super chats pouring in. And that's great. We'll get to all of them after I do my quick monologue. Not going to take too long because I know it's a later stream. It was the longest joint address to Congress in history, longer than I think Bill Clinton, who had the previous record in 2000. But Donald Trump, he loves to shatter the records. He loves to do the weave. He didn't do the weave too much. But it was all warranted. It was not like you were bored. Nobody could say it was ramble or whatever word they want to use to demean Donald Trump's speeches. We have 100 likes, so we're going to put the video on. Oh, that is not the right one. That's the right one. There we go. I'm back, and we got a picture up on screen. Yeah, this is our opposition. It's like, honestly, you have these people. They're miserable. Many of them are old. Many of them, all they have to cling to are lies and just, they keep moving the goalposts. They keep moving them. You know, it was all about abortion and Project 25 before the election. Now it's all about Trump is trying to take Medicaid because he's going to have to balance the budget and he might have to reduce waste, abuse, and fraud in Medicaid. It's like, okay. You just get a grip. These people never learn. They never learn, but it's far beyond that. You know, Donald Trump will say something like, oh, wait, he did say it. I won the popular vote. The whole place erupts in boos from the Democrat side, and it's like you're booing the fact that Donald Trump won the popular vote, which he actually did. He won the popular vote. He won the popular vote by quite a bit. For a Republican in 2024. They said it would never happen again, and he won it by, several million votes. And you don't obviously campaign for the popular vote, but not only did he win the popular vote, getting millions more than Harris, he also won every swing state. He won it decisively, the biggest margin of victory in those swing states, going all the way back to probably like 2012 or 2008, those decisive Obama victories that he had over some weak Republican candidates. But still, you're seeing Donald Trump. He went out there. He won big after all the stuff they put him through. I mean, it's incredible what he was able to overcome. Obama never had to overcome any of that nonsense, but Trump did. But still, they go out there and they boo, and you have people throwing a temper tantrum. A gentleman from Texas, Al Green, decided to throw the biggest temper tantrum of all, and then the sergeant at arms, he was out of order. He was out of order, and the sergeant at arms escorted him out because Mike Johnson, he took the microphone away. Donald Trump is just sitting there with a smirk on his face, just saying, okay, now we're going to turn the temperature up to 11, and he did. And by the way, it was a very partisan, like, State of the Union type speech, and technically it's not a State of the Union, it's a joint address to Congress, but it's pretty much the same concept, the same thing. The State of the Union will be the address that Donald Trump will give earlier next year. It'll be formally called a State of the Union, but this was pretty much a State of the Union. This was an equivalent, and these people are just seething. It's true, Trump didn't exactly give the most unifying speech possible. He did attack Biden and his administration, rightfully so, by the way. Everything he said was valid, but he did launch, he was a bomb thrower out there. And he deserved that opportunity after everything they've put him through, whether it's on the campaign trail, what they're trying to do to him now. He's the voice of a forgotten man and woman in this country, the people that want change. And now that he's out there trying to enact change, recognizing that our system is entirely broken, wanting to reform the system by any means that he possibly can, well, you're kind of seeing this reaction, and it's just insane what we're seeing. You see these people, all the women, they have to do their DEI stuff, like the Black Caucus is all wearing black, and then the females are all wearing pink for some reason, except I guess this individual on the right, if that's even considered. I think it is actually a woman, by the way, believe it or not. I mean, you never know with some of these people on the other side across the aisle, especially with the, purple hair, whatever. But you have like some 85-year-old social justice warrior from Connecticut sitting up there acting a fool. They all were acting a fool. We saw that just unfold, and they were just seething. They were angry, and it got even funnier because then they were like the Wojak meme, where it's like you're seething and you have to wear like the happy face, except they weren't clapping. There was no clapping going on. And that's another thing because, look, you like Trump, you don't like Trump, you're there. Not everything in the speech is going to be about Trump or his agenda in general. There's people there that Trump is bringing in, people that have survived some really tough things. You had people that were the family members of people killed by illegal aliens. Democrats are sitting down. You have a 13-year-old with brain cancer who became a honorary member of the Secret Service. And they don't clap for that. I mean, maybe a couple of them did, but the ones that they showed, you had Debbie Wasserman Schultz and everybody around her. They're just sitting down, sneering, angry. This is the opposition in our country. We really have become a government where you have one party that is not perfect, but you can at least move the ball down the field, and then you have this other party that can't even do that basic thing so long as Trump's there. It's TDS. I mean, Trump will cause these people to throw all principles in the garbage and they'll be the ones that'll talk loudest about them. It's hilariously ironic, but when you see these people on the opposition, on the other side, in what they're doing, Donald Trump called him out perfectly at the beginning of the speech. I could do X, Y, and Z, and many of those things, by the way, he did do. He could say I could usher in an economic miracle. That we could have the economy going for everybody. We could cure a disease. Some people are going to take that as him like touting the vax or something, but I don't really want to get into that. But the bottom line is that he is saying I could do anything. I could basically cure cancer. I could move mountains. I could fix the economy in an instant. We could restore the American dream. They would still be sitting there just spiteful, angry, not cheer for anything. And that's exactly what they did tonight. And it really showed. I mean, you had them holding up these little signs and you had them yelling. I mean, obviously it slowed down after the whole Al Green incident, but if it wasn't for Mike Johnson taking the microphone, it could have gotten way out of hand. Obviously, Trump himself would have been like, sit down, but I don't think he really wanted to deal with that. And I don't know what power the president really even has to call on the Sergeant of Arms. I'm not 100% in the know about that stuff, but he gave a good speech. He talked about all the topics, immigration, the economy, ending the war. It was all common sense. And yeah, it was blatantly at times partisan, as it should have been. because you talk about, oh, it's partisan. Well, when he tries to be nonpartisan and talk about like the most basic things in the world, like, okay, we want people not to be killed by illegal aliens in our country, and we grieve with those families, they don't stand up. When you talk about, oh, we're going to have a 13-year-old brain cancer patient, we're going to make him an honorary member of the Secret Service today. Congratulations, DJ. They're just sitting there with their arms crossed. I mean, you have to be able, in this situation, you have to give the partisan speech. Now, on the other hand, you'll have people that'll say, well, MTG yelled at Biden once. It's like, who cares? That's not the equivalent of whatever the hell that was. This just loud, if it wasn't for Mike Johnson throwing a member out of the chamber, it would have been worse. It would have been a total shit show, and everybody knows it. But we had control over the chamber, so they were just sitting there, and I guess they were just seething the entire time. The only one who might have clapped was Pocahontas at one point, a very tepid clap, and then Trump says, oh, Pocahontas says yes, which again, this is the one-liners. It's objectively entertaining. Even she couldn't not smile at that moment. But that was probably the most unitary moment, whatever you want to call it, of the evening. Other than that, these people are just spiteful and angry. Trump's listing off all the things that are bloated in terms of the government spending, and they're just sitting there. They're, some of them were yelling at him, all this sort of thing. I remember it was a big deal when Joe Wilson, I wasn't really paying attention to politics, but Joe Wilson, I think 2010, 2011 from South Carolina, he yelled, "You lie" at Obama. That was like the biggest deal in the world. And he had to apologize for it. And it's just like, now we see that. It's like, okay, these people made a giant deal out of that, and now look what they're doing. So give me a break on that front. But, so it's just insane. It's just insane. You can't compare the two. If you do that, you're just on a different planet. You're just playing team sport politics, which they'll do that anyways, and we understand how that goes. But you have that. You have Donald Trump. He was cheerful. He was funny. He was entertaining. He's restoring confidence in America. That was the theme of the speech. He was entertaining. You couldn't not listen to the speech if you're even Trump friendly and not get a kick out of it at times. Usually, these are boring, long-winded speeches that presidents typically give. But Donald Trump going up there and doing it with his little one-liners, it's entertaining. With Biden, it's just like old man yelling, gets angry, says a bunch of things that are half true or lies, and then that's it. It's over, and the media acts like he gave the best speech in the world, and that was a big reason why he continued his primary campaign. That's a big reason why Democrats weren't really wanting to replace him then. We obviously saw what happened during the first debate, but Donald Trump, no, this is no Biden. This is not 78-year-old incoherent speech. This is 78-year-old masterclass speech, delivering a very, very good speech to the nation, a much needed speech to the nation to ensure confidence in the administration, because typically that's how these things go. You have a president that takes power, and they didn't do all of their agenda in 2 months, but then they give the speech, and then it restores a bit of confidence. And Donald Trump did more than enough to do that tonight. So good for him on that front. I don't know what impact it's going to have on his approval ratings. They're already decently high. The liberals are going to find some way to claim that the speech was an utter disaster for Donald Trump, and I don't know what they're going to try to do. In order to do that, I'm sure they'll say, oh, he was too partisan. Oh, he was X, Y, and Z. But it's like, you guys made a fool out of yourselves. You guys were yelling, acting like children. Mike Johnson had to be the man in the room, send one of their members into timeout who now wants to impeach Trump for it. Okay, how is that exactly going to go? Probably not too well. Probably not too well. You don't even have control of the House. It's not going to happen. We know that. And you kind of see that Donald Trump was able to go out there and kind of just show how he has the Republican Party united behind him and united behind his agenda. Whether it is Mike Johnson, John Thune, directing these people, get me the funding. And also the tax cuts thing was hilarious. And it's true. He said the Democrats, if you don't vote to extend these tax cuts for the middle class, because that's what it is, because the tax cuts for the wealthy brackets are going to stay in place. The ones for the middle class expire. Donald Trump wants to renew them. Now, keep in mind, Biden and Harris wouldn't want to renew them. They would dance around the question. And now it's like Trump wants to. It passes the House. And then Trump says to the Democrats, you guys are going to vote for it. If so, if not, I don't know who the hell would vote for you ever again. And it's true. Do people really want, even if it's $1,000, $2,000 a year, that's like a raise. People don't get that at work nowadays. Wages aren't rising. You need to have that relief. You really do. And hopefully Donald Trump will be able to get it done, but it's also on the hands of the Senate to also pass it through. And I believe they're going to have to pass it through, even if I don't know how they're going to do it to clear 60, but they got it done the first time. I'm sure they're going to get it done a second time for sure. But either way, the left is spiteful. That's the way it goes. We're very polarized. And the left could use this as an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to treat Trump like a president. We're going to help him pass through the most popular aspects of his agenda while fighting against things that like we disagree with, which very few things you can legitimately disagree, because basically common sense, 100% actually of his agenda is common sense. But these people have to oppose it for some way, shape, or form because Donald Trump is effectively countering the regime. And that's who these people represent. Republicans, they're not perfect. We know they're not perfect, but at least you can get things done with them. You can't get anything done with the other side, plain and simple. The Democrat Party is done. They're gone for in terms of their ability to save this country. They're just going to sit up here and claim that Donald Trump is destroying the economy. People aren't going to listen to them, even if people may not like the tariffs. They're not going to necessarily listen to the Democrats when they're acting like this, when they're acting like children, when they won't stand up for certain things, like, I don't know, 13-year-olds with brain cancer being awarded an honorary title in the Secret Service, or if it happens to be I don't know, the parents of illegal aliens who were killed, or the family of a firefighter who was killed at a presumably politically motivated assassination attempt of a U.S. president in Butler, Pennsylvania. So either way, these people are scumbags. That's just the way it is. There's no other way to really chalk it up. This isn't even really political. This is about our country. If the left actually wanted to, I don't know, rebuild successfully, they would have to understand that this type of behavior is not popular. It's what's driving people directly into the arms of Trump or Donald Trump's administration, but they never learn. They never learn. So in a way, you got to welcome it. And nobody cares about the response. I don't want to hear about whatever that fat CIA pig from Michigan has to say about Donald Trump. What the hell has she ever done besides drive several people to commit suicide with their own psychopathy? I've heard the horror stories. Everybody's heard the horror stories. It's true. You may not believe it, but it's true. And like, the woman's a psychopath. There's videos of her, these trackers, they go up to her, they ask her questions, this is what they're supposed to do. And she knows everything about their cat, their dog, their family, just weird stuff. I mean, she's a crazy person. I don't care what the hell she has to say about anything. The fact she became a senator is just a disgrace, this big stain on the state of Michigan. But I have nothing else to say on that front. But either way, the Democrats are just miserable people. They can't even take the layups. They're miserable people. Exactly. This says it all. We're going to keep this up the rest of the way. That's the opposition. We have Donald Trump, and then you have these people. Who are you on the side of? Are you on the side of these clowns over here, or are you on the side of Donald Trump, the man who took a bullet for the country, or these losers, these clowns? Like, let's be honest here. Let's be serious for a second. So, all right, we got 1,000 live viewers. Like up the stream, guys. Let's get it to 500. And we have plenty of super chats we're going to get to. And if you guys want to send in more, feel free to send in the super chats. You can do so at the $ function. The goal for this stream is 30. We're already at 11, so if we could get to 30, that would be great. You guys know where to send them in. We're going to keep the conversation going, and hopefully we hit that goal in the process. So, Johnny Heartdog kicks us off for 2, saying Democrats being the babies that they are. Exactly. Yeah, we're the sore losers, apparently, because people went in a building 5 years ago. Oh, no. Yeah, whatever. Gerald Armstrong says China already making threats on X. Johnny Hartdog saying it makes sense Democrats wouldn't cheer for a poor kid with brain cancer. They'd rather have them murdered in the womb. XJ Cherokee Bear says Chunk Yogurt says removing Al Green was race. Yeah, I'm sure they'll say that. They probably will find some way to make that about Ray. Totally not the way he was acting in the chamber. It's definitely because that's why. Yeah, totally. Okay. H Hawk 2001 for 10 says A+ performance from Trump beginning to end. Can't believe they couldn't clap for a cancer patient. Only thing I wish Trump would have done is call out the pedo members of Congress Bondi will expose. Well, that's a toughie. That's a tough one. I don't know if he knows the list. Like I said, I don't think that the list is even existing in its current form. If you think that there's that mythical list of all the people, everything they've done, and you think the FBI had their hands on it, I'm not saying you can't investigate a cover-up, but let's be real here. There probably is no list. Anything that was actually damning is in some shredder somewhere. It's gone. And there should be investigations into that. I'm not saying that we need to, just close the door on that stuff, but let's be honest here. Let's be honest. Johnny Hartdog for 5 says, did you see the shot of Pelosi? She was crying with tears and everything, but at least there was no way she could rip up the speech. Yeah, and that's another thing. That kind of gave the green light for Donald Trump. He could do whatever the hell he wants at a State of the Union address after that happened. And it's not like he did it. Like, how could they say his behavior was wrong because he got partisan? Biden got partisan. They cheered that on. They said, oh, this is proof that he's cognitive. It's like the guy's just angry. Donald Trump was partisan in part because he had the mandate to be, because of how their behavior has been, not just towards him in the past, but also during the speech. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Gerald Armstrong says Disney is closing down 538. Yeah, should have had some champagne for this stream. All the enemies are just crumbling beneath our feet. Isn't it a time to be alive? Isn't it a time to be alive? But yeah, 538 is done. They're over. Put a fork in them. Oh, good riddance. We're the real polling people now. We don't need 538 to crunch the numbers. Real Clear Politics has always been superior. Anybody who says they haven't been because, I don't know, one of their editor-in-chiefs is like a moderate Republican, they're fools. They've been more accurate than 538 in terms of their polling aggregates every single cycle. And yeah, 538 has done some positive things. For example, their aggregates have opened up the doors for polls like ours to get more recognition. I'll give them the credit where it's due there. But in terms of everything else, no. You see what they've done. They'll put us in the aggregate and then they'll threaten to dangle. It's like they'll dangle a carrot in front of your face saying, oh, you speak out against it. You speak out in a partisan manner on social media, we'll take you out of the aggregate. It only goes one way, by the way. It doesn't go the other way for the other pollsters. They talk about quality of poll. Well, our polls are more accurate than all the so-called high-quality ones you've been touting and using to somehow discredit our poll. So I don't care about your arbitrary quality metrics. You could take those and shove them up your rear where they belong. I care about accuracy. I care about making sure that we can just get it done right and make sure that we can inform the public. And honestly, we've taken some heat because some of the polls that we did were a little bit more left biased than the final result. And I didn't agree with them at the time, but that's just how you conduct the poll. Sometimes you get a bad sample. Sometimes you get a good sample. Sometimes you get a sample that is too Republican favorable. Not as often, but it happens. And sometimes you get one that's a little bit more Democrat favorable. Polling is polling. Polling is a little bit of a mixed bag for sure. Nobody could really deny that, but it's the way it goes. So John Waffle H2P for 10 says the clown Green, who has apparently been LARPing in Congress since 2005, would have cheered for this 15 years ago. Shows how much denial the Democrats are in. Well, exactly. There's no reason to not cheer for 70% of the speech, even if you are a Democrat. Like, let's say you're like a John Fetterman type Democrat who at least will try to appear nonpartisan. I didn't see him clap. I don't know where the hell he was. I don't even know if he was there. He's a phony. He'll say good things. He'll throw you a bone every once in a while. I'll take the bone, but I'm still going to want to beat the guy in 2028. I don't know who's going to do it, but we have, 3.5 years before we get there. Johnny Hartdog for 10. This is another point to make. The legacy media wouldn't even mention all the waste from USAID with the speech. Now all of America is aware, and many probably heard about it from the first time. Yeah, the thing is that it's honestly too good that so many people won't believe Trump, because some of the things that you're saying, like I've had many people, that I've talked to, friends, family, like not just from the speech, but just from hearing about or hearing me talk about the USAID, they're just like, wait, no, this isn't real. This can't be real, because they don't believe it. They don't believe we're spending money on transgender children operas in South America or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's only a few $1 million, but that can go a long way. I mean, you add all of it up, it's quite a bit of money. We talk about all the waste that we have. It's not just in USAID, it's in the Department of Education, Social Security. They're going to get on Trump because of like the whole ages thing where he's listing out all the people. And we don't, I mean, that could have been like old data, but the fact that it's still like a thing, like the fact of the matter is that you have a lot of fraud within Social Security doesn't mean we're going to cut Social Security, but we need to cut the fraud in Social Security, the waste in Social Security. We've never really looked into it, and they don't want to look into it because they know what's going to be exposed. That's why they're unwilling to take the political layup, because they're using the system for their benefit. They'd rather do that than even take the layup. And you've had this uniparty because you have Republicans for the longest time that have been do-nothing Republicans, so they've been fine with them. But now that you actually have this drive to gut the bureaucracy, which is not a focal point of Trump's first term at all, it's like you have these people losing their mind. So that's the way it is. Johnny Hartdog for 5 says, Pocahontas was shaking really bad. Someone should check on her. Exactly. They should. King Caboose 2003 for 5 says, as the rate he's going could end up the best president we've had. I felt Washington could never be topped, but he could. Well, Washington is always the first. You could argue that he could never be topped because we wouldn't have America without George Washington. I'm not going to compare the two directly. I need 4 years from Trump to go out there and win for the country so we could really gauge if he's going to be considered a top president or a president that is not going to be viewed in that tier. But he can get in that top tier. I've talked about iconic presidents 50, 60 years from now. Who are the presidents that when people think of presidents, of course they're going to remember the few recent presidents, and then they'll remember people like Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, maybe FDR, JFK, Reagan, Obama, probably just because he's the first black president. He's not going to be remembered for much else. But then I think Trump has to be in there just because, yeah, he served 2 non-contiguous terms, had all these iconic moments, just dramatically changed politics as we know it. And possibly for the foreseeable future, he's going to have an impact for a very, very long time. So there's that. I don't know if he's going to get to Washington level. I don't know if anybody can get to Washington level, but I think he's got a lot of potential to be a very good president. But people need to understand that the economic policies take time. Deportations also take time. If we're not getting anything in a year, then people should be up in arms about it if we don't see a meaningful increase in deportations. But as of right now, it's like, yeah, they need more funding. So it's objective analysis. You're not going to build Rome in a day. It's not how it works. But at the same time, you got to put down the building blocks and you got to ensure confidence in your agenda. And in Trump's speech tonight, I felt like he did a very good job of that. So American Nerd 76 says Paul Ryan never had the balls to kick out Green. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he had the balls to do anything. Now, Mike Johnson is a mixed bag. He's always been. I think that he's going to be a much better speaker under Trump than under Biden because Trump calls the shots. And so far, I feel vindicated on that front. He hasn't done anything to screw it up, but there's a long way to go, obviously. We're just, a month and a half in, 6 weeks in or so. Gerald Armstrong says Polymarket was Polymarket was more accurate than 538. People betting their money on the election was more accurate than 538. And obviously, you could make the case that the people betting are informed. They're making their decision based on more than just polling. There's early voting data. They weigh certain factors differently. But if you wanted to make money in election season, you have a half a brain and you bet on elections. Anybody who thought Iowa was going to go Democrat, just because of that one garbage poll, we know that poll was not good. We know it was allegedly, probably, who knows, bought and paid for. How did Democrat operatives have it before the public? I don't know, but they did. The overweight governor of Illinois, I'm saying that, putting it nicely, because he's a lot more than overweight. He had it. He was bragging about it, and then he said, "Oh, it's not supposed to come out." Why was that happening? So, either way, yeah, it's like you can. I don't really advise people spend money they don't have thinking they're going to make it, but it's such an easy investment come election season if you know what you're doing to put a little bit here and there. I mean, and know when to sell on certain things too. So like if you know certain states come in, like Virginia reports more Republican. When they first start reporting, maybe you get Virginia before the election starts, buy Republican, then it'll go up from like 2 cents to 10 cents, then you sell, and it's like, oh, you made a lot of money, even though it falls back down to zero. Dean Cream Between says Vance and Johnson sitting behind Trump was a great sight. Well, hey, look, it's a lot better than Trump's last State of the Union, where you had Pelosi tearing up his speech, and then you had do-nothing Pence. And then before Pelosi, when you supposedly had a trifecta, you had Paul Ryan. It's like you like Mike Johnson, you don't like Mike Johnson, you trust him, you don't trust him, you're somewhere in between. You got to admit that it's far better than having Paul Ryan. I mean, Paul Ryan was a total disaster. I mean, we have come a long way. Doesn't mean we're perfect, doesn't mean we're there, but we're going to get there eventually. Hopefully, we just move the ball down the field where it belongs, and we have a much better leadership so far. I don't trust John Thune, but credit where due with Trump's cabinet picks. He got them all through. He I believe, has to face re-elect. Well, he has to face re-election in 28, I think. So he can't screw up too much there. Could be primaried if possible. So there's also that fact playing a role. At least he's better than Mitch, who votes against Trump's cabinet appointees, partially because he can now, because he's on his way out. He's a dinosaur. He's not going to run for re-election, thankfully. American Nerd 1776 says, Dems got mad at Joe Wilson for the "you lie" quote. Exactly. They were mad at that. They were throwing a temper tantrum. But no, this is fine. Apparently, this is just fine and brave because it's Trump that's on the receiving end. Now, they'll make a big deal about Marjorie Taylor Greene yelling about Lake and Riley, but I mean it's evident that was not on the same level as what we saw tonight, and she took a lot of heat from the media about that. I don't think Al Green, the same media that gave her heat's going to try to make him a hero. Now, even you had people on the Republican side saying, I agree with what MTG was doing. Maybe they didn't like the optics of it. But on the Democrat side, everybody's just going to defend. They're just going to defend Al Green and his actions. So Chase M says, do you think the Dems have a chance to win the Florida specials? Not a chance in hell. Not in Florida. I mean, those are red districts too, deep red districts. John Waffle H2P says, you need to move back to Michigan and run for Senate against Slotkin in 2031. Yeah, how many trackers have just mysteriously committed suicide? Serious question. You're not supposed to talk about that. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it because people deserve to know. Okay, people deserve to know about that. I don't know all the details, but I do know it happened, and she played a role with the stress she inflicted on multiple people. Now, there's other people that she's on camera doing the same behavior too. And it is just a disaster. And the fact that Mike Rogers knew or had access to that and didn't run on that and didn't show that to the public shows that he was weak for that. He was very weak for that, because he could have made an ad about that and made her look like a lunatic. And nobody would have voted for, nobody would have. I mean, she would have underperformed Harris if people saw that. But they didn't see it. So now, if you bring it up, you're the crazy person, even though it's true. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I'd run when I'm 30. I'd probably start off in lower office if I ever run for anything. Chase M says, do you like Susan Collins? She's my senator. I can put up with her. Very liberal Republican. Yeah, Rhino from Maine. But you're not going to get anything better than that in Maine. I think people that want to primary Collins are wasting their time. And it's counterproductive, because you could at least try to primary somebody that could lose a primary and then have the replacement at least win. People that want to primary Collins just are campaigning for a Democrat to be senator. That I'm not really a fan of. I don't really particularly like Collins, but I can live with Collins. I can't live with Lisa Murkowski. I can't live with a lot of these other senators that are from deep red states but act like they're in states that are even bluer than Maine. So there's that. Now, Johnny Heartdog for 5 says, forgive me for harping on this, but the real news is how demonic the Dems acted more than the speech itself. Well, and again, that's not good PR for the Democrats. I mean, whether it's, Trump gave a good speech, or Democrats acted like lunatics, guess who loses? The Democrats. Guess who wins? Donald Trump, the Republicans. So, they made a fool out of themselves, and it shows. And I'm all here for that. I can live with that. So, CCM28 says, my favorite presidents in order: Trump, Washington, Nixon, Ike, Teddy, Jackson, Polk. Dems look ridiculous tonight. Hopefully the party gets old Yellard in 26. Well, that's up to us. I mean, we have enough people to do it. I mean, you're working with like 80 million people. You just got to turn out more than the other side. It doesn't matter what the state of the country is in, so long as we get the ballots in the hands of the people that we know are going to vote our way. There's a reason why, despite the fact that, Biden was an awful president, the Democrats did well in the midterms, and it wasn't just Roe v. Wade. It wasn't just spending. Well, partially spending plays into this, but it was the fact that Democrats did a good job of getting their people out to vote. We have to do the same thing. There's no excuses this time around. And as for the presidential list, I agree that all those, I mean, maybe not with the order, but those are definitely some good presidents. Nixon, a little bit of a mixed bag. Some people aren't going to agree with that one, but John Waffle H2P for 10 says McKinley's one of our greatest presidents that's forgotten. I agree with that. And now he's back on the mountain where it belongs. Some people in Alaska might not like that, but the way I grew up, it was all Mount McKinley, Mount McKinley. They changed it back in part for political correctness, to appease like some very niche, like Native American activist type of people. Many in the population don't care that much, but they really wanted to change the name, and they changed it. And, you can call it whatever. I think you could use them interchangeably. Why not do it like it's like, why not just call it Mount McKinley at Denali, or Denali at Mount McKinley at Denali. It's like you have the naming rights. It's like, the Mall of America field at the Metrodome. Same thing. I don't know. You could find a way to make it work. But he deserves his name on the mountain. That's the way I grew up with it. That's the way a lot of people did. It was never a problem until a few people started yelling about it to try and change the name that it hadn't had for like 100 years after the fact. So whatever. The Emperor's Champion says the Golden Dome the Emperor protects. Yeah, hopefully we could build that. That would be a great job creator. American Nerd 1776 is Rachel Maddow says President Trump celebrating a young cancer survivor was disgusting. People like her are disgusting. Would she actually say that? I mean, that's even low for her. I mean, how is Trump still breaking these people and making them hit new lows? I mean, they got to be exhausted. They're just like, I just can't even deal with that. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says 3 huge things in the speech you didn't mention. 1, taking back the canal looks like it's going to happen. 2, it looks like a deal with Ukraine has been made. And that's another thing. A lot of people were mad because Donald Trump stood up to Zelensky. You know, people will play the little clip of him and Vance getting heated. The bottom line is, did those same people watch the full hour? Because if you watch the full hour, and you can't criticize unless you watch the full context, you could see the flip-flopping, you could see the visible frustration that Trump had, that Vance had, etc. But now, because things got a little heated, it's not orthodox politics, it's a little bit out of the box, you now have him coming to the table, and you now have, Russia, they say now Russia wants the war to end as well. You have to get both sides together to make a deal. The number one priority we should have is not make sure that Russia doesn't exist tomorrow, because you have so many people that have that mindset. A lot of people are stuck in the 1980s, and that doesn't mean that Putin is good. That doesn't mean that what Russia did is good. What it means is that, you're going to have to make a deal, and if Ukraine doesn't have the same borders that they had in 2014 or 2021, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You're going to have to save lives, or it's going to continue. You're still going to lose the land, but slower. It's just not going to end well. So a deal needs to be made. And also, why are they suspending elections? Like, we had elections in a civil war. They want to talk, Putin's bad because he's a dictator. I'm not saying he's good. But then Zelensky's just as much of a dictator, doesn't have elections during this conflict, is using it to basically stay in power. Now, that's not good either. If you want to talk about the morals of what constitutes a corrupt dictatorship led by a thug, there's a lot they have in common. Okay? There's a lot. A lot of people just want Ukraine to not be under Russian influence, so they could be under the influence of our corrupt government. That's what a lot of these people want. Now, Ukraine should exist. The people should be at peace. Russia is not our friend, but that doesn't mean we need to push them directly into the corner of our worst enemies either, because they're already pretty much there. And we need to make a deal and make sure this stops. I'd rather get along with these people, our adversaries. Donald Trump doesn't view it like everybody's like an ally or an enemy. He views America and he views these other people. He knows that we have the influence and the pull on the globe stage, especially under his leadership. And he sees these people as pawns that he gets to move around. He doesn't want war. He doesn't want conflict abroad, but he wants these countries doing what they can do for us. So it's like, okay, fine, we'll give you money, Ukraine, so long as you let us get even more than that in these minerals that we know how to extract, that you have, that we could use to pay down our debt, and it's a deal. And Zelensky was teetering on it, and now it seems like he's making the deal, so that's a very good thing. Now, as for the Greenland thing, I thought that was well played by Donald Trump during the speech, which, by the way, guys, like the stream. Let's get to 750 likes and subscribe if you haven't subbed yet. But in terms of the Greenland thing, he was like, yeah, I support the people of Greenland to do whatever they want, but I highly encourage them to join us, and I have a feeling they'll be joining us one way or another. He's kind of doing a little bit of trolling, and it's just effective. It's effective. Michael in North Carolina won, because Obama wasn't the first black POTUS. He was the first biracial POTUS. His mother was a white Dunham who traced their roots back to the Plymouth. Well, you know what I mean. Like, you're technically right. Obama was not 100% black. He was half white. People do forget about that. But in the scheme of things, he's going to be remembered regardless, whether, we should be trying to classify him as biracial or not. He's going to be remembered as the first black president. Whether people like him, don't like him, whatever. Like, that's just, but that's like what he'll be known for. He's not going to, like, Obamacare is a distant second. Who knows what that's going to look like in 40 years anyways, or even 5 years. So Johnny Hart Dog says he all but said Greenland is going to happen. Off topic, but I found out repealing ranked choice voting in Alaska is going to be on the ballot. And well, they got to do it perfectly. They got to do that. They got to do it well. They have to execute. If they can't execute and they can't turn out voters for that, it's going to be a massive disaster because the messaging was not behind it at all. It was not done properly in 2024 when you had a golden opportunity. Now people need to be, it starts now. The midterms start now. We don't stop. I mean, this needs to be something that gets talked about. Make sure we repeal it. They're going to try. I mean, it could be confusing wording. You never know, but it's got to be repealed. This is a corrupt power grab stunt by Lisa Murkowski to stay in power, basically guaranteeing the Democrats a shadow senator in the state of Alaska, because that's exactly what she's been. American Nerd 1776 says, I think there were times when Dems should have risen. I think what Al Green did was despicable, said David Axelrod on how Dems handled the State of the Union. Well, Axelrod's not stupid. I mean, you have these people like him, Carville, etc. They're cheerleaders for their side, but they also kind of at times want to win. And they will accurately say that the party is a disaster, because the party is a disaster run by incompetent fools. All the old guard competent people, if you want to say it gets categorized in that column, they're all gone. They're all gone. They'll vote Democrat, but they're all retiring. They're being pushed out. Their generation is being phased out of the workforce in various ways. So now you have crazy people running the show, like the people on the screen here and plenty of other people that are running the party. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance they do nominate Kamala Harris again. I mean, she's leading the polls. What's going to stop her from running? What's going to stop these morons from nominating her? They'll be like, oh, well, we could do an I told you so campaign with her saying, oh, if she won, then things would be like better or something. And that's not going to work, especially if the economy does see a massive turnaround by like 2027, 2026. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think it could happen sooner than people think. It could get worse before it gets better. Is that all Trump's fault? No. I mean, you could say anything caused, like inflation caused by the tariffs would be, but that's more of long-term gain. How come we have Canadian companies now saying they want to move to the United States to avoid paying these tariffs? How come Honda wants to make cars in America? This is exactly what Trump campaigned on, protecting the American farmers. But for some reason, Donald Trump is like the bad guy all of a sudden because he wants to enact an agenda that, he promised that he was going to enact when he ran on it. And of course, people forget about that. They're removed from the Trump media cycle being in the campaign manner. And then he goes out there and basically delivers what's kind of like a campaign speech or like a Trump rally, but like a very polished Trump rally. And then you're right back to square one, and it restores all the confidence in the world that people who may be losing confidence need to have. So there's that. But he's fighting. It's not going to be an overnight thing. He can't save the country in one day just because he had a good economy when he was in office. I don't know if we're ever going to get back to 2019, but I think we're a hell of a lot better off getting there if you have Trump in the White House versus if you have 4 more years of the same. So it's going to take a while, but people need to understand that, and we're going to see some improvement. But people that want to whine about, everything's not fixed yet when we're in March of 2025, 6 weeks into the presidency, it's like I don't even understand how these people I just don't even understand how these people are going to be reacting when you do see some progress, because they just keep constantly making a fool out of themselves. Kevin Jacob for 5 says, I'm from South Dakota. We gave a strong message to Thune to fall in line. He wasn't even going to run in 2022. American Nerd 76 is Denali Peak on Mount. Yeah, they could do that. I mean, it could be like a dual name. I understand it. Like you can call it whatever you want to call it, but Mount McKinley is the formal name that it was before Obama changed it to be politically correct. So if people want to say Denali Peak, as CCM 28 puts it, everybody is happy. True. American Nerd 1776 is Russia, Ukraine are off. Well, they're both bad, I think. They both have their problems. No, I don't think it's beneficial to have Russia strengthen themselves necessarily by taking all the land that was, because I think that, if they do have an expansionist worldview, it's not, oh, they're going to take Poland and they're going to take Britain. Like some of these people are fear-mongering. You have some people that want to restore the land of the USSR. I don't think that's beneficial for us, but I don't think that we need to send a blank check, billions of dollars, get nothing in return from Ukraine for the sake of them still winning a war against them anyways. So we got to be smart about this, and I think it's better to get along with people. Donald Trump kind of knows that philosophy, keep your friends close, your enemies closer. He gets accused of, he's a Russian asset, he's teaming up with North Korea. Even some people in the primary were trying in bad faith to connect him to Xi in China. It's like, I'd rather get along with these people, even if you have to butter them up to get things out of them, than do whatever we're doing right now in terms of foreign policy that's been so disastrous. All these people, they want to compare every conflict to World War II. Every adversary is Germany and Japan. We're all, Biden was Churchill, apparently. It's like, yeah, no. It doesn't work that way. Red whale politics is Dems only have abortion, CRT, and wokeness. That's it. Yeah, it's not going to work out for them. Abortion went out the window. So much so to the point where Republicans are favored to win a statewide off-year election this year in Wisconsin. Still got to make it happen. We need people voting. But this is not like doom and gloom, 2023, we're screwed. This is, we got a real fighting chance here. If anything, I don't want to say the F word, but favored, you might be favored. Given the metrics that you have, I think you'd be objectively favored. But you got to go with your gut and temper the expectations a bit, because we know how these things typically go. But it's like we just got to engage our own side. Let them be the ones asleep at the wheel this time. Ash K2 says, trans sports ban didn't pass the Senate. Honest question. Why do we try so hard to defend women's sports when 62% of young women vote Democrat? I'm so done. Well, because it's a layup political issue. You have a society where it's normalized, where you have men that identify as women, so they say, playing women's sports, dominating. It's just a wedge issue that shows that men and women are indeed different. It's not so much about, we have to appease young women who play sports. It's not really about that. It's just about showing people how the other side is just unhinged and detached from reality. That's the point of that whole ordeal. Red whale politics is people are so exhausted of 2020 era politics. Today proves the Dems are cry bullies. Do you think Derek Chauvin will get a fair trial? Well, if you're talking about like the appeal trial, I don't know. The bottom line is that the guy, if you're going to view things objectively, take emotion out of it, pretend you never saw the initial video, and you watch the full body cam footage of the George Floyd incident, and then you couple it with the toxicology report, which showed that he had almost 4 times the amount of lethal fentanyl in his system. You're not going to charge the guy with first or even second degree murder in any logical circumstance. So, yeah, I do think he should be pardoned. I don't think it would be necessarily popular, but if you look at all the people Biden's pardoned, it's like insane. Yeah, this guy, he's done his time. He was literally stabbed in prison. Even if you want to say he did something wrong or committed manslaughter, I think he's done enough time. Just commute the rest of his sentence. Yeah, it would be common sense. People will say, well, it's a problem for the black vote. And it's like, first of all, BLM is a fad that's gone. First of all, let's just make that clear. Second of all, that presumes that black Trump voters are incapable of coming to the conclusion that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose, which by every reasonable metric, you could come to that conclusion. If he was found home alone, that is what the conclusion they would have came to. And even if you want to say, well, his knee was on his neck at this time, that move is in the Minneapolis Police Handbook. So maybe you could say that the move contributed to speeding up the death process for Floyd, who, by the way, said he couldn't breathe before he was on the ground even. That's why he was put in that position to begin with. But if we're going to be honest here and say that just acknowledge reality and talk about the fact that it's in the handbook. How exactly does that justify putting somebody behind bars for 40 years where they get stabbed and made into this pariah of society? And then if you even say anything positive or in defense of them, then, there was a time where you'd get canceled for that. But in reality, it's like times have changed. I think it would be very symbolic if he received a pardon. I know it would not be popular among everybody, but let's be real here. He has done more than enough time and suffered enough for something that is not so easily provable beyond a reasonable doubt. He got a really bad trial. A lot of people get bad trials and then they appeal. Criminals, murderers, there's one thing off in their trial and a lot less than what we saw in Minneapolis, that show trial, and they're able to walk out free and do it again. I think Chauvin would just probably want privacy. He's not going to be doing it again. He wouldn't be a police officer, but it's like, no, I understand. Oh, it's not popular, they say. But, at the same time, whatever happened was unjust. And it should be looked into, and I think he should be pardoned. CCM 28 says, personal opinion, pull out of NATO. EU has gone rogue. China is enemy number one, not Russia. Try to replace China in BRICS along with Japan and ARG. So thank you for that super chat. I don't know how we would feasibly pull out of NATO, but the bottom line is threatening to do it is something that can at least get other nations to come to the table. They fear Trump in a good way. And that's kind of what Trump is able to do to manipulate these world leaders like they're chess pieces, like they're NPCs, to get exactly what he wants. And it works almost every time. And the same people will throw a temper tantrum about it every time and end up with egg on their face every time. It's a recurring theme. So Chris H. says, I cranked YMCA at the end of his speech. Perfect. Easy says, China's threatening war on X. Trump should increase tariffs to 50%. Ash K2 says, leftists are rooting for Trudeau and Sheinbaum to put America to its knees. Maybe with economic hardships, independence will shift left. What are the odds? Well, it depends on the economic hardships. The bottom line is when you have these other countries saying we're going to tariff back, and they also claim that tariffs are going to shoot our economy in the foot, then wouldn't these other countries who rely more on us than we even rely on them be shooting themselves in the foot more? Yeah, I mean, they technically would. So you see people that are like, oh, Trump is causing Canada to possibly elect a liberal government again. It's like, if they want to shoot themselves in the foot and commit national suicide because Orange Man bad, then why the hell do I care? Why is that my problem? I don't live in Canada. I'm not Canadian. I feel bad for the well-meaning people in Canada. But if you really want to shoot your country in the foot because of Trump in a trade war, then that's on them. That has nothing to do with anything to do with me, anything to do with the well-being of the United States. Hey, it could be a weak leader we could take advantage of. Why wouldn't that be something? But I don't know. The bottom line is that these other countries, they want to do what they want to do to own Trump. That's on them. That's just on them. I'd like Canada to have a strong Trump-like figure that we can get along with, that doesn't rip us off on trade and vice versa. But that's not the relationship we have with them right now. All Trump is doing is kind of evening the playing field, calling these people out on their BS, calling out the system for being exactly what it is, broken. And he's the one that has to take all the arrows because of it. So, yeah. But I will say that to the average person in the American public, when they see stuff like this stuff over here, I think that it makes them like Trump even more. So let them keep doing what they're doing. Say, oh, well, Trump is he's ruining Medicaid or something. Well, if Medicaid's not actually touched and people aren't being thrown off their plans, how exactly is that going to negatively impact Republicans? If they want to run on Doge being bad when you have a need for reducing spending and them talking and finding the spending, and they say that this is like some unpopular thing, like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Red Whale Politics is the left is just a walking, talking meme. I've been for a long time. American Nerd 1776's thoughts on Tuberville may be running for Alabama governor instead of re-election. I get the Senate sucks, but as a resident of Alabama, I don't want to downgrade. Yeah, I think it's a bad move, but some people just don't like the national politics. Some people don't like it. I would much rather have him run for re-election. He's been a pretty good senator. I mean, I know Alabama could probably find another, but I'd rather him just run for re-election. It's not like he'd lose it in Alabama anyways. He's got that Senate seat as long as he wants it. So, yeah. Well, we hit our goal. So I'll look in regular chat. We hit roughly around the hour mark. I know it's getting late, but I will look in regular chat for a few minutes. I guess this will also be the last call for super chats. But guys, can we get up to 1,000 likes? Maybe not, but I think we can at least hit 800, if not 900. So make sure you like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel as well. But absolutely, just a good speech from Trump. He did well. I don't think you could really find anything wrong with it. Meanwhile, the left, I don't think you could find anything right with their behavior tonight. You can't. We have a new poll from the watchers of the State of the Union. Now, keep this in mind. This is technically going to be slanted because you have more pro-Trump viewers of the State of the Union than not. But still, 44% say very positive, 25% say somewhat positive, and 31% say negative. So for a speech being as politically charged as it was very positively viewed, and that's a very, very good thing. Now, it is true that, the same poll showed, Biden had like a 60%. But that wasn't that good compared to this. I mean, you have like 70%, 69% approval for tonight's State of the Union. That's good. That's objectively good. You love to see that. So, yeah, someone said, what the hell is that thing with a purple mop on it? That was a representative, surprisingly a congresswoman from the state of Connecticut. So, yeah. Politically charged, give me one example. I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing, first of all. I want to make that clear. He had every right to do it. Biden's was very politically charged last year. When I say politically charged, I'm talking about he was calling out Biden. He was calling out the Democrats, and rightfully so. I think it's a great thing. He deserved that ability. He unlocked it a long time ago. But, politically charged, yeah, it was clear. I mean, it's a political speech. It's going to be politically charged. Sometimes his State of the Union's his first term, they were less politically charged. I mean, they were more just talking and touting accomplishments. And you technically don't have as many to tout when you're, 2 weeks in? But he's basically telling Congress, get to work. He's going to use that time to tout his agenda. You talk about the precedents that was set with the last couple State of the Unions where he was attacked. Yeah, he's going to attack. He called Biden the worst president in the history of the country. And he's not wrong. I mean, James Buchanan can rest easy. Red Whale Politics is, can New Jersey get down to 700K before the election? It's possible. It's entirely possible. So, yeah, it was a joint session. But it's pretty much like when people think of tonight, most people are going to refer to it like in the general public as the State of the Union, even though it's technically not. But that's the way I see it. So great speech. A+, can't dock him for really anything. Called on Congress to increase funding so they can execute mass deportations. He's not forgetting about that. A lot of people are upset about it. I also am not happy with the numbers, but I mean there's a time frame where you give people the benefit of the doubt. And so far, Donald Trump has shown that he wants to still go through with it. He needs more funding, and it seems that at least enough Republicans in Congress are well on board. So, but yeah, it was a very, very, very long speech, and I was, you're not bored when watching it. It was like fine wine. It was a very good speech. I'm not just saying that to say it. I mean, there's been speeches that Trump gives that are decent, but maybe not his best. This was one of his best I've seen in a while. I loved the inauguration speech as well. Not every rally speech is going to be like 100% perfect when he's doing 6 rallies a day, which in and of itself is pretty impressive. But Redwell Politics is, who do you hate more, Kamala or Tim Walz? They're a tandem. Walz is more of like a dope. Kamala is also a dope in her own way. But, I mean, she's more insufferable, I think, whereas Walz is just more of a doofus. Same people complaining about prices ignored them for... Exactly. Like, you don't get to blame Trump for egg prices being high when they were blaming him for that when the eggs were still on the shelf from the week before when Biden was president. It's like, come on. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I like the Trump Butler rally was great. The second one, the return. I mean, there were so many moments, so many rallies. I would watch them all on 2x speed. There's a lot to keep up with, but it was definitely, that was a hectic season. But what a victory that was. We got to see it live in front of tens of thousands of people on this channel that tuned in. We got 1,000 of you here tonight. So... But like, yeah, the optics of it, not good. Sitting for cancer kids and families that have been murdered by illegal aliens. Who do these people think they are? Like, this is not normal people. Normal people don't do this. Normal people you see in public tend not to act like this. But our leaders act like this. Half of Congress acts like this. Half the Senate acts like this. Insane. I mean, if Biden was doing it, even with that, Republicans would have stood up for that moment. I mean, their problem was they clapped for too much of his agenda, like policy stuff. But, you know, it is what it is. Red Whale Politics says, I pray we get a 2002 midterm. Well, people got to vote. They got to register. I mean, there's so many people who were watching that would super chat, I'm 17, I can't vote, but they're probably 18 now and they can vote in the midterms. So those people are crucial. They need to get out and vote. If you have if you're a parent and you have a kid that's about to turn, make sure they vote. Unless they're, for some reason, on the other side in which you don't have to, you can just not bring up the election to them. They'll probably forget about it. But a CBS poll shows 76% of people approve of the speech. I didn't see that one. And by the way, the poll on the screen is the CNN one. SSRS is CNN of all networks. But it's in that ballpark. And of course, your viewers of all the parties they put up are going to be more Trump friendly. You know, that is true. It's not like this is going to change a ridiculous amount of people's opinions on Donald Trump, because that's just the country we live in today. But the fact is it was good optics for him. It restored faith in some people's minds who may be buying the propaganda. And he gets this unfiltered 2-hour block in prime time to go out there and just reiterate his agenda, talk about what he's done, talk about what he's doing. And that's something that helps him for sure. So, but Trump is the MVP, but that kind of already was going to happen anyways. So I guess he has to, if there's another MVP, it's none other than Mike Johnson, because he definitely set the tone by kicking out the congressman. Took balls to do. This isn't just a guy settle down. This is you mess up, we will remove you. You will disrespect the chamber, we will take you out if you're going to do this, and just keep yelling. Like this wasn't a you lie moment. This wasn't like the moment of MTG, which again, a lot of people that agree with her felt like the optics of that were a little bit iffy. This is something that's objectively just a bad look. You guys were basically booing, not letting Trump make the speech. Biden made the speech just fine. Nobody had to be thrown out of any of his State of the Unions or even any of the Trump State of the Unions before, despite the fact that they still wouldn't clap for anything that was worth clapping for. But it doesn't matter now. He won the final battle in the electoral ring. He doesn't have to worry about re-election. He just needs to deliver for the American people. And yeah, we might have, might have some bad economic months. It takes a while to get out of the mess, and people need to understand that. But by the time the midterms roll around, you're probably not gonna see like a death spiral of economic turmoil. And it's like the system's already broken, the economy's already bad. If you're gonna want to do this like tariff stuff, now's the time, because we've run the numbers. Liberal or neoliberal pro-free trade firms have run the numbers on how much inflation they would cause, and it's minuscule in comparison. It's short-term and minuscule in comparison to the price hikes we saw under the Biden administration. So do what you will with that information. But yeah. Let's see. CBS polls on Interactive. I believe you. I'm just not able to pull up every single poll right now. So, all right, guys, think we're going to wrap it up. It's been a great stream, great speech. We have almost 900 likes. Like the stream before you guys go, and maybe we'll even hit 1,000 on the replay, which you guys can watch at the Rep Archive playlist on the playlist section. But make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.